Hey everybody, this is Josh Burling and welcome to Consume the Canon. So last time we talked about Season 3, at least the first half, and some of the interstitial stuff that happens after that, Forces of Destiny, things like that. This time, we're going to be focusing on the second half of Season 3, which has a few a few story arcs, which are really some of the most important storytelling in all of Clone Wars, and possibly even all of the Star Wars canon in general. So, let's go ahead and dive right in. First up is the 3-episode arc that starts with Night Sisters. This is the episode where Darth Sidious has decided that Asajj Ventress is getting too powerful and he wants Dooku to kill her. This is where we get the first sense that Dooku thinks of her as more than just an apprentice, because he doesn't actually kill her. He just rejects her. He tells her that she's failed one too many times and she can't be his apprentice anymore. Rejected and not really knowing what to do, Ventress goes to Dathomir and talks to Mother Talzin, who is the head of the Night Sisters, which is where Asajj Ventress came from. She works with Asajj, Mother Talzin does. They talk with what her next steps would need to be, and Asajj decides that her next step needs to be kill Count Dooku. So, with the help of a few of the Night Sisters and some invisibility, Asajj Ventress and the Night Sisters go to Serenno and try and kill Dooku. Surprise, surprise, they fail. This is actually the first of 5 times, something like that Asajj Ventress tries to kill Dooku and fails. So rejected, she goes back to Dathomir, not knowing what to do next. And in a confluence of things, Dooku needs to get a new apprentice, so he goes to Mother Talzin to get a new apprentice, and Asajj takes that apprentice kind of under her own wing and turns him into an assassin for her to try and kill Dooku. That leads into the next episode, Monster, and the creation of Savage Opress. So the next episode is all about training Savage in the ways of the dark side, and then in the last episode, Savage, Asajj go to try and kill Count Dooku, and they fail. Asajj basically, she falls apart. She doesn't know what to do with herself anymore. She runs, and Savage Opress gets away as well and decides to go off on his own. And this is when, at the end of the episode, Savage Opress goes back to Mother Talzin and says, "I don't know what to do with myself. What do I do next?" And Mother Talzin tells him that his brother is actually still alive, and that's when we get the first image of Darth Maul. It's the first time Maul appears in an episode of Clone Wars, but it is definitely not the last time. So after this is the 3-episode arc all around the planet Mortis and the 3 everlasting beings who embody the Force, the brother, the sister, and the father. This arc is unbelievably good. It's 3 episodes with Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Anakin finding this lost planet out in the middle of nowhere where these 3 beings who essentially represent the light side, the dark side, and the Force, the middle kind of neutrality of the Force, all together on one planet. And this 3-episode arc is really about Anakin's struggle with the dark side forces that he feels inside of him. With all of his pain and his anguish and his anger. This episode is really all about kind of exploring that. He gets tempted and he almost turns to the dark side, but he is swayed away by Ahsoka and Obi-Wan and does get away. I'm not going to spoil too much with this arc. It's amazing if you haven't seen it, and it is the first actual appearance of Darth Vader in a sequence that Anakin has, where he's actually seeing into the future. You not only hear the breathing of Darth Vader, but you see an image of Darth Vader as well. The arc is amazing. If you haven't seen it, stop this video right now and go watch the 3-episode arc in the end of Season 3. After that arc is the 3-episode Citadel arc. I can't believe all these episodes, by the way, are all in a row. These are seriously 9 of the best episodes in Clone Wars, and they're all right together. In the Citadel arc, Anakin and Obi-Wan have to go save Jedi Evan Peel and General Tarkin, or Admiral Tarkin. He has so many different names in this series and in the books afterwards. I'm pretty sure he's an No, he's a captain. He's Captain Tarkin at this time. Captain Tarkin and Jedi Evan Peel, who have some secret information about hyperspace corridors that could be used to help the Republic win the war. But they've been captured and put into the Citadel, which is one of the most horrible places for someone to be imprisoned. It's specifically designed to hold Jedi. So the Jedi have to break in. And it's a 3-episode arc, which gives us more insight into some of the other people in the Jedi, kind of in and around the Jedi. Specifically Tarkin. This is where we see a lot of interactions between Tarkin and Anakin. And you see Tarkin really gaining a respect for Anakin, even though he doesn't truly agree with the way that Anakin does things. It also gives us the initial kind of glimpse into the relationship that Tarkin has with Palpatine, because he seems to have a very familiar relationship with Palpatine, although we don't really get to explore it that much. It's cool too because it shows that Tarkin, even in these most unbelievably dire situations where it looks like they're going to die at any moment, he is completely cool and calm, and he's also kind of a jerk all the time to everybody, which I think is hilarious. But the arc itself tells a great story, although nothing really comes of the hyperspace corridor coordinates that they were supposedly all dying for. But whatever. It's a great arc, great storytelling with Anakin and Tarkin, and it leads into the last arc in the season, where Ahsoka gets lost. She gets separated, or she gets kidnapped by a bunch of Trandoshan and put on a planet where she is hunted. There's a bunch of Padawan who are there who she finds. She teams up with them, and they have to try and save themselves because no one knows where they are and there's no one who's able to find them. That is until the 2nd episode of the arc and the last episode of season 3, where she runs into a Wookiee who's been imprisoned, who happens to be Chewbacca. So this is the first timeline chronological appearance of Chewbacca, and he is there and he helps Ahsoka escape from this planet, and everyone is challenged and things are difficult, and Ahsoka learns a lesson, but it's an interesting end to the season. It doesn't really have anything to do with real canon material, huge Clone Wars storylines. It's a much smaller story, a much more intimate story, but it's the kind of story that Ahsoka really needed to continue to flesh her out as a fully realized 3-dimensional character. Okay, Season 4. Season 4 is a hard one. So the beginning of Season 4 is the worst part of Clone Wars. None of it's bad. I really don't think there's an honestly bad episode of Clone Wars, but it's not great. It's actually pretty difficult to kind of get through the first half of Season 4 of Clone Wars. It starts off with the 3-episode arc that takes place on Mon Cala, and Prince Lee Char trying to save the Mon Calamari people and all of the people of Mon Cala, because Mon Cala is actually split between the Mon Calamari and the Quarren, and they don't really super get along that well. Prince Lee Char is supposed to become the king, yada yada yada. Anyway, Separatists come in, they try and mess stuff up. Lee Char saves the day by being, righteous and whatever. The episode's fine. There's not really a ton to it. The only thing that's important to note in this is that, remember, Lee Char is the king, and all these things happened on Mon Cala when you read the Darth Vader Dark Lord of the Sith series later in Burning Seas, because at least it'll give you a little bit more context to that. But otherwise, the episodes are pretty easy to skip. And frankly, the rest of Season 4 is kind of like that as well, up until about Episode 8. The next episode is Shadow Warrior. Jar Jar Binks pretends to be the Gungan boss. Totally worth skipping. After that is Mercy Mission and Nomad Droids, which are 2 episodes about C-3PO and R2-D2. Nothing happens in them. Totally can skip them. After that, however, is the 4-episode arc on Umbara and starring General Krell. So, the gist of this is that the Republic is invading Umbara to try and push out separatists, and the clones on Umbara are being led by General Krell, who seems like kind of a by-the-book, doesn't give a crap about clones sort of general, but in fact, he's actually trying to help the separatists by screwing around with the forces that are on Umbara. This is a real heavy clone episode. Lots of stuff with Rex, lots of stuff with the other clones, really interesting interactions between a bunch of the other clones, and trying to figure out what to do when they have suspicions that a Jedi isn't actually good and he's actually trying to kill them. And what is the difference between him actually purposefully trying to kill them and him just having a certain style of leadership, which seems to have a lot of clones die. The episode arc is fantastic. It ends with a battle between the clones and General Krell, who has 4 arms and wields 2 double-bladed lightsabers. He's also like 8 feet tall. It's so cool. It's great. It's absolutely great. It starts bringing season 4 back on track. Because the arcs that come after this are really a little bit better, and they lead up to the end of season 4. If you know season 4, you know what's at the end of season 4. But it is a really good start back on track for Clone Wars. So after the General Krell arc, we have a 3-episode arc where a bunch of Togruta are kidnapped and forced into slavery. And so this is a bunch of Ahsoka episodes and Anakin where they're trying to free these slaves. There's some good stuff in here. It's a good arc. It's not essential, I think, in any way. But it is definitely better than the first half of season 4. And then that leads into a 3-episode arc, which is one of the most interesting arcs in Clone Wars, where Obi-Wan fakes his own death to pretend to be a bounty hunter to try and succeed in a mission for the Republic. This has a lot of Cad Bane in it, and has a lot of cool bounty hunter action in it. It's got a lot of interesting moments where Obi-Wan needs to make choices in a way that doesn't infringe on his Jedi code while still helping him be a bounty hunter, a real, legitimate bounty hunter. And it is the first use of Ben as a code name for Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that 3-episode arc is good. It's not great. It's not essential, but it's, like I said, better than the first half of season 4. There are 2 more arcs in season 4. The first begins with the episode Massacre. And this is the episode where Dooku has decided that he's had enough with Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters, and he sends Grievous and a bunch of his droid army to wipe them all out. So Asajj Ventress happens to be there at the time, and she witnesses Grievous basically murder everyone that she's ever known and loved. He kills all the Night Sisters, wipes them out entirely, and Ventress, at this point, really has no idea what to do next. So the next episode is when we first see her as a bounty hunter, and she hooks up with Boba Fett and Bosk and all of his crew, Dengar, his first appearance, and they do a bounty. They run a bounty where Asajj basically flips the script on Boba Fett and leaves him behind, where she steals all the money for the bounty. But this is where she starts making a name for herself as a bounty hunter, and it leads into a lot of the bounty hunter stuff that we see with her later. And then finally, the last episode arc of season 4 is where Darth Maul and Opress finally meet each other again. It's where Savage saves Darth Maul, brings Darth Maul back to Dathomir, where Mother Talzin in like a spirit form still exists, and helps him get his legs, because he doesn't have legs, because if you remember from the episode, he's just like a giant spider monster. It gets him some legs, and then in the last episode, we really start to see Darth Maul's plan come to fruition. We see him start formulating what he's going to do, how he is going to get his revenge, how he's going to build a team, a group, a criminal organization, and how he is eventually going to take down the Emperor. Fun fact, spoiler alert, he never does. But it's where he first starts formulating those ideas. These are awesome episodes. If you like Darth Maul, if you like dark side users, these are great. And it really starts to lead into some of the amazing stuff that's going to happen in season 5. So that's all we got for today. Thanks a lot for joining. Please remember, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. And this has been Josh with Consume the Canon.